think the last 2 3 days. So we are live on YouTube now, and another 1 minute we will start with all of your permissions. And Chauhan sir, I will request you to, at that point of time, also come in.
Hello.
Just another 30 seconds.
Okay, sir. No problem.
So Vivek, would you allow me to start now?
Please go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Vivek Atray, our host for the day. Good afternoon, Dr. Umesh Narta, Dr. Chauhan, Dr. Prajesh, who's also a very dear friend. Good afternoon, all the teachers and lecturers and faculty members and students on this webinar today. Welcome to Ideas That Matter. Ideas That Matter is a series of webinars that Vivek and I started around 12 or 13 weeks back when Corona hit us. And the whole idea behind Ideas That Matter was to share ideas, inspire each other, and hopefully in the process, inspire our students. We've so far touched around 100 different schools and colleges across India. We've spoken to more than 100,000 teachers and many, many more students. And I'm so delighted to speak to lovely people of Himachal, because Himachal is really where knowledge sits. Hum to Devbhumi hai, and we're so glad that Vivek is here to take us through his thoughts on creativity, because creativity is what makes people excel. Creativity is what makes ordinary people extraordinary. And I'm so jealous of Dr. Prajesh, who's giving creativity right now by eating apples and taking care of his orchards. That's also creativity, being away from the day-to-day life. And that's what we're going to talk to you today. My name is Atul Khosla. I'm the founder and pro-vice chancellor of Shoolini University, located in Solan, Himachal Pradesh. You would have heard of Shoolini, of course. My background, I am a BTech from IIT Kanpur, and then I spent 20 odd years in the industry in different parts of the world. My last job was CEO of a very large consulting firm, and I was a global partner with them. When I wanted to be a teacher and I decided to be a teacher, my father is a teacher and the founder of Shoolini, and I'm so happy that I did. I don't have to wear a tie anymore, and I can wear a lovely kurta, which I'm wearing today. So once again, welcome all of you. I think before we start, I'll request Dr. Chauhan to please give a 30 to 45-second introduction. Welcome, Vivek, and then we will start this very wonderful discussion. Over to you, Dr. Chauhan.
Thank you, Atul. Hello, good afternoon to all. I'm Dr. P.P. Chauhan, Associate Professor Botany, presently holding the charge of Principal at Government Degree College, Saraswati Nagar. With me, we have the Dr. Vijay Chauhan from neighboring college, Government College Sima, and Dr. Nata, Assistant Professor from Sima College. So, first of all, I would like to thank Shoolini University for making us the part of this webinar. Now, this is a great initiative by Shoolini University, associating with every institute of Himachal Pradesh through this webinar series. This will provide a platform to all of us, and we'll have especially the area for exchange of the idea in the situation of COVID-19. The webinar, which is being conducted by Shoolini University, is very good managed and conducted. So that speaks about the volume of the faculty and management of the Shoolini University. Now I extend my welcome and thanks to Mr. Vivek Atray, ex-IAS and motivational speaker, who is going to speak on this webinar topic, creativity is the elixir of life. I also extend my thanks to Mr. Atul Khosla, Pro-Vice Chancellor, Shoolini University, the brain behind conceptualizing the idea of the series of these webinars, that the idea matters. I would also like to thank Mr. Dhruv Bali, Shika Sood, and Dr. Nata, who are associated with the preparation of this webinar. Finally, we all are eager to hear Mr. Vivek Atray, and the topic creativity itself has very wide dimension and scope. teachers has to be creative as they have to deal with the creative generation and smart student and manage this young generation. So I think all the faculty member and students, they are going to be greatly benefited from this webinar. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chauhan. Thank you for very, very kind words. I'd like to introduce our speaker of the day, Mr. Vivek Atray. He's an ex-IAS officer, TEDx speaker, motivational speaker, author of many, many books, 3 books for sure. And we'll talk about that. A very dear friend of mine, an advisor and a professor at Shoolini University also. But I also call him the architect and the brain behind the IT Park of Chandigarh, which he sort of led when he was the director IT of the Chandigarh administration. So we're delighted, Vivek, to have you with us. And on behalf of Shoolini and all the people and students of Himachal, I welcome you to this wonderful webinar. Vivek, I won't take more time. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Professor Atul Khosla. Thank you, Professor Chauhan and Professor Brijesh and Professor Umesh. Very nice to meet you all, and it is nice to see about 50 teachers are already there on the Zoom call, and maybe more are there on YouTube. So this is wonderful to connect with the teachers and professors of colleges in interior parts of Himachal. I also have a Himachal connection, and my mother was from Nahan, and although that is a lower part of Himachal, my wife is also from Himachal. She's from Shimla. And Atul, of course, very much said that he and his family have been a family of teachers from Himachal. Shoolini University is close to my heart. I am a visiting professor and advisor of Shoolini University. After taking voluntary retirement 2.5 years ago from IAS, I became a motivational speaker throughout India, and I became an advisor and visiting professor at Shoolini. A few other things like Vivek Career Academy for IAS in Panchkula, and a think tank called Suvichar, also I'm a founder of. So nice to meet you, all the professors and teachers on this topic, creativity, because creativity is one of my favorite topics. We have held about 70 webinars now with schools and colleges, and whenever I speak on creativity, it is very, very exciting. Why should we talk about creativity? Because creativity helps us in many ways. It helps us to combat boredom, of course. It helps us to not be stagnant. Stagnation is not good for us. It is said that flowing water is always good. And in Himachal, we have a lot of flowing water. So it is good to be always on the move, thinking new things, exciting things. Albert Einstein said, intelligence having fun is creativity. Creativity is intelligence having fun, which means that something new, something different, something exciting, something innovative. So where does creativity come from? Those of you who are psychology professors, you know, or doctors, that the right part of the brain is the part which is the creative part of the brain. I'm not a doctor, so I won't go more into detail on that. The left side of the brain is the logical side. The right side is the creative side. Most of us use the logical side a lot more than the creative side. In India, we are very good at numbers. We are very good at organizing things, routine things. And children are also told, please memorize this chapter or this book or this particular thing. And that is something which they are very good at. But our education system depends more on marks. And if it depends more on marks, then creativity is not really encouraged. I have also been director of education before taking VRS, and I know that it is very, very difficult to encourage creativity in our current system, because so much emphasis is on marks, so much emphasis is on memorizing what is written in the book. I will give you an example of creativity before I move on. Let us talk about this young lady who could not wake up early on time in the morning, any day. And as you know, young people especially find it difficult. Even my daughters, they don't wake up on time. They work late at night on the phone, and then they wake up late. So what did this young lady do? She used to snooze the button all the time and never be able to wake up on time. So she created a different kind of alarm. And this alarm, instead of just doing snooze and then after 3 times or 4 times, the alarm would actually fall off the table and start moving towards the wall, away, far away from the girl and from the rajai and from the cozy comfort of the bed. Once that alarm reached that far away place, as far as possible near the window, it started making a loud noise, very loud noise. And this girl had to get out of the bed and has to stop that alarm. Now, when you are out of your quilt, then half the sleep is gone and you are already half awake. So she did it deliberately. It was her creativity, it was her innovation which came into play. This is a very small example. There are huge examples of creativity which are there in life. You know about e-governance. I have been a part of e-governance in government. You know that earlier times we used to stand in the queue to pay our bills, and today we can pay through the internet. There was a time when we had set up e-Sampark centers in Chandigarh. I was director IT, where people could go and pay their bills or get their passport made or get their application submitted. We used to call them e-Sampark centers. We still do. In Himachal also we have some kind of centers like that, common service centers, etc., which do the same thing. These are all creative ways of transacting, of doing. Then creativity also comes in terms of whenever you change something. A teacher is teaching the same chapter every year, let's say. Let's say in physics, there's a chapter which you will teach every year because you're a physics professor, and every year the students will be different. The chapter is the same. You are the same. So when you teach that chapter, you can either go word to word what you did for the last 15 years, or you can innovate and bring in a new example. You can bring in a new story. You can read something on the internet and innovate over there through your knowledge, know-how, some best practices of teaching that particular, let's say it's Newton's laws or Archimedes or something, whatever it is, these are basics. But whatever it is, you can teach that with a different flavor so that you challenge yourself. Now you see, creativity means Atul and I have done 70 webinars. If I give the same speech 70 times, I will feel dull and bored myself. So I challenge myself to come up with different stories, examples, instances. And Atul also, we both come up with different stories and examples so that we are creative. Another example of creativity could be how India has been able to reach out to the masses through banking, through other things. There are so many technology-enabled features which are there. Even TikTok, which has been banned by the government of India because it was a Chinese application, was a very creative thing. Even social media is a very creative pursuit. Somebody sitting somewhere invented WhatsApp one day. And he was probably very, very creative as a person. Earlier time, we would start SMS. In SMS, we could not send photos. One day I saw a friend who says, my wife has gone shopping. She's gone to buy a shirt for me. She has sent me the photograph of the shirt from the market, from the shop, that do you like this shirt? And I was so surprised. WhatsApp, I didn't know at that time. This is maybe 7, 8 years ago. And here it was, and so innovative. So what is creativity helping us? How is it helping us? Creativity is helping us by challenging the norm, challenging the status quo, challenging the routine way of doing things. It makes life a little more worth living. If you are doing the same thing in the same way for 40 years, it gives you comfort, but it doesn't challenge you in any way. I have an example of my Masi and Mosaji. We call them Mosaji. I know in Himachal you call them Masarji. So Masarji and Mosi are sitting in New Jersey, living in New Jersey. Every morning he would go to work at 9 o'clock and my Masi would wake up after that, 10 o'clock. So I was saying with them once, I said, Masi, this is not fair. I mean, he goes to office, he gets ready, has his breakfast on his own and goes to work also, and you are sleeping. So she says, we have an understanding. I prepare a very different kind of dinner for him every day. And he enjoys that flavor, different variety, this, that. But breakfast, he wants the same thing every day. He wants a bit of milk, he wants a toast with butter, maybe boiled egg. That he can do on his own. I am not required to get up for that. So creativity can be in many part of our lives. I am going to request Atul to come in at this point because he is also going to share his ideas on creativity, and he's going to hopefully show us a film of Shoolini University, which is very, very inspiring, where creativity is actually wonderfully on display. You go to Shoolini, and one of the things I'll tell you, professors who have not visited, lovely log huts and tree houses, which are absolutely beautiful to be at and see. And also, Atul, I believe dustbins are also very creative. Excuse me. And low cost as well. So kindly tell us about them as well. Over to you.
Thank you, Vivek. I think the topic is so appropriate, which is creativity. I've always maintained that creativity can make ordinary people extraordinary. I want to bring in a little bit of my story over here. I'm a Solan boy. I grew up in Himachal, and I studied at Government College Solan for my 11th and 12th. And my story sort of starts here because I was not the most, I would say, intelligent when it came to marks. I was, I think, 76% in my 10th, and I think 74% in my 12th. There were odds against me. Someone told me that I should aspire for IIT and the JEE exam. And I sort of took it to myself. There was no one who had ever got into IIT from Himachal before I did. Pretty much everyone laughed at me, including my principal at my college, Vivek. So what did I do? I could have just said, okay, I won't do it. Or I could have said, let me go out and prepare. So I took the option of jumping into preparing for IIT JEE. And I did it a little differently. At that point of time, the creativity I brought in was what I call prioritization. So I did not study each and every subject. I looked at all the different question papers over the last 15 years, and I tried to understand the trends in those 15 years of question papers. And with that, I was able to crack the JEE, and I became the first student from Himachal to clear the IIT exam. So that's one example of creativity. Of course, that's about using creativity in your day-to-day lives. Great teachers like all of you, I think, make your lectures very inspiring, and you make your lectures very creative. I think you can also bring a lot of creativity in the environment, for example. Inspiration is what makes students successful and inspiring. So one of the things we can also do is bring creativity into the environment, make it lush, green, exciting, try to do new ideas at costs which are much more efficient than what you normally do. So there are different ways that you can use creativity on the work side. But let's come back to the non-work side. The right side of the brain, teachers, is extremely powerful, which is the creative side of the brain. It has amazing memory. And I always give this example. Let's think about a tune we would sing when we were in college or we were in school. And I'll ask you to think about that for 10 seconds. Think about a tune that you haven't heard for the last 10 years or 15 years, but you used to sing. Okay, now let's now think about it. And I'm thinking about one tune, Vivek, is just coming off the cuff. Gunguná rahe hai bhavre khil rahi hai kali kali. I'm bad at singing, but I remember the tune. I remember it up to the nanosecond. I remember it right up to the nanosecond. But think about a number. Think about things that we remember with the left side of the brain. We just don't remember it at all. And that's the power of the right side of the brain. So one of the things which I experiment with is using stories and using games in teaching. So one of the experiments we're doing, Vivek, at Shoolini, is bringing gaming into learning, especially with online, we can do that. So we're actually giving assignments in the form of games. Think about a Psalm CD or a Snake and Ladder or a Ludo or whatever. So your exam is in the form of some game. Students remember it to the extent that one of the courses I even experimented an exam as a game. So think about as a Psalm CD with multiple choice questions. You do the question right, you get 2 points. You do it wrong, you go -1. So you play Psalm CD, and your final score is where you reach as far as Psalm CD is concerned. So that's a lot of creativity. Students loved it. So creativity can just make things so exciting. It can make ordinary people do extraordinary things. I'm going to, at this juncture, tease all of you. I'm going to show you a little bit about the Shoolini campus, where personally, I try to bring in a lot of creativity. I try to spend a lot of time making it a beautiful environment. So here it is, if you allow me, Vivek.
Sure.
Thank you. It takes a lot of inspiration from our students to create a beautiful and exciting and inspirational campus. So Vivek, my last thought is going to be that we can, when you think about creativity, amazing stuff happens. Every successful person in this world has a great hobby. Some people like you do meditation and write. Some people are fond of art, they paint. Some people sing. Some people cook. You can have different forms of releasing your creativity. So I will request, my last thought is I'll request every teacher over here, every student over here to practice that creativity, especially in these times of stress. Creativity also releases stress, apart from, of course, helping us becoming better human beings and better teachers and better students. Vivek, over to you.
Thank you, Atul. I totally agree. Creativity helps us in relieving stress. And we saw a wonderful campus of Shoolini, wonderful creativity over there in every respect. So as senior people, professors, principals, teachers, there are many ways to make our own work environment more creative. You can obviously, of course, walk by a notice board every day and not even notice it, although it's called a notice board. Or we can make it look different, tell somebody, encourage somebody, little things. We can celebrate birthdays, anniversaries of students and staff whenever college is on. We can have some musical entertainment from time to time. These are things in college. In our personal life, we can actually add something like art or poetry, which was not there earlier. Why? Because it makes us think slightly in a better way. Depression comes to those people who don't have any creative outlet. And these days, writing therapy, art therapy are ways to come out of that moodiness or depression. A lot of young people are indulging in this writing therapy and art therapy because it is creative. It helps you to get over that depression or mood or low feeling. So I think that will help a lot of people, not only of the young age group, but not so young also. And supposing the professor who is now 45 years old or 50 years old, all the while he wanted to sing, but never could feel, he felt very shy. Now Atul sang a song a little bit. Supposing he started practicing, he couldn't do much better. And you and I, any one of us, if we practice, will do much better. So creative outlets must be there. You cannot have a life where you are morning time, breakfast time, college time, home, walk, and dinner, and TV, and walk, and whatever, and finished. That is not life. So Sunday or Saturday or both or evening, music, art, photography, writing, reading. In fact, reading is something which I encourage young people a lot. There are more than 50 professors on this call and maybe more on YouTube. I must tell you all, please read at least 2 books in the next 1 month. Why? Because it will help you to get a new perspective on life. Even if you read online, they should not be part of your syllabus. That is a separate issue. Something which will make you think different. Something which will bring out a new perspective to life. Something remarkable is happening in Denmark, for example. Read about it online. Some book which is written by, I was seeing recently the autobiography of Usain Bolt. Bolt is the greatest Olympic athlete. 9 gold medals in the 3 Olympics, 3, 3, 3. How he won, how he became Bolt, and how his life became so good. Also read great scriptures. We are all Indians. Indians have a deep-rooted history, philosophy, culture, and spirituality. Spirituality will also bring a lot of creativity into your life. I have this book here, which you can see the cover. It is autobiography of a yogi, Paramahansa Yogananda. Very famous book of world over, or not only about yoga, but meditation and how life should be balanced. It is a world famous book. You may have seen it in your parents, grandparents, or somebody's place. Everybody has seen it somewhere or the other. It is available in Hindi, in Punjabi, in English, in many, many languages. And one should read this book to get more perspective. Any other book. So books will be a great creative pursuit. Also, I would also encourage many of you can actually write a book. I have written 3 books, and you may also have enough capacity to write a small or big book. Some teachers, they write poetry and come out with a collection of 100 poems. Some teachers write short stories and come out with that. Some teacher may write on the subject which you are good at. Maybe your subject is geography and you write on a particular aspect of geography. So why don't you indulge in such things to make a little bit of an impact? Otherwise, everybody comes into service, everybody retires. But who is remembered? Somebody who made an impact, either through creative efforts or through your nature, your goodwill you got, the respect you got. Creativity is something which gives you a lot of friendship, a lot of praise, a lot of popularity. That is also very important. I'll tell you the story of, which one should I tell you? I'll tell you the story of thankfulness. So I'm going to tell you the story of Mr. Pedro. We have to be thankful in life. So Pedro went for an interview and Pedro could not find a parking. He was in a big city like New York or New Delhi also. So he could not park his car, and it was somebody else's car. So he could not park it on the road also and get challan. So he decided to keep on searching for a parking. 20 minutes late now for the interview, he couldn't find a parking. That's the status in big cities nowadays. And suddenly he decides to pray. He looks up to the heavens and prays. And that prayer is, God, please find me a parking. Otherwise, and if you find me a parking, I will give up all my bad habits today. So God is God. He finds him a parking within a minute. And this Pedro parks the car and he says to God, he looks up, he says, God, don't worry, I found the parking. What does it mean? It means we think we found the parking, we found this, we found that. Actually, it is God who is helping us. Receptivity to the Almighty by being spiritual, by meditating, by understanding the bigger purpose of life is something that will help us in our happiness index. Ultimately, we won't remember all the salaries we got. We won't remember all the material acquisitions or whatever we accumulated in life. Won't remember. We will remember only those wow moments of life which were hatke, different from others. And that is something which we need to focus on. That wow factor, how we can make a change in people's lives. Even by being of help to society. And in your village, in your town, in your city, wherever you are, in your college, in your society, by making some group, making an NGO, there is a lot of creativity, planting trees which were never planted there. Somehow they have become more popular or successful. Or somehow, if you are into apples or whatever it is, some creativity which brings in a new way of doing things. Let me also add the example of Dabbawalas to inspire you. You all know about Dabbawalas of Mumbai. Dabbawalas are the case study in Harvard, and they have been able to send lunch boxes from home to office of those people who work about 40 or 30 kilometers away every day. Hot lunch boxes reach from home to the desk of that person. The dabbawalas take those dabbas from one train to another through color coding, and that creativity has no match. Never has the wrong box reached the person. Never have they been delayed. Never have they missed a train. Of course, nowadays there is no dabbawala with the lockdown, but now with the open little bit of unlock, I think they have started again, hopefully. Dabbawalas are world famous only because somebody became very creative. They have color coding on the red box, green box, yellow box, and that is all they need to reach the right place with the color code and the combination. So people don't have to be very educated to be creative. They have to be slightly different in their approach. That is something which will make a mark. I have a quote, all the professors, let me share it with you. It is, life is not about marks. Life is about making a mark. And what does it mean, making a mark? Koi impact karna, koi asar chhodna, kuch zabardast cheez karna. So we must inspire our students to be inspired, to make an impact in their society, for their country, and then they will leave a mark. And everybody will know that this person is very good at this. So we should have such a ambition in life, rather than somebody wants to be the richest person, somebody wants to be the most powerful person, somebody wants to be the most famous person. That is okay. Nothing wrong with that. But by being creative, we can get more joy, more happiness, more inner peace, calmness. And success also comes to those who are more creative. Walt Disney, another example, Walt Disney cartoons, stories. Walt Disney was turned down by Hollywood initially. Said, no, we can't take this idea. But he was so good and so persistent and creative that he succeeded. So I'm going to request Atul to come in again and add some more ideas on creativity, and then hopefully he'll show us another creative experiment and research conducted by Shoolini University.
Thank you, Vivek. Truly appreciate, as you were talking about creativity, I was trying to think about the link between happiness and creativity and success. And I was just reading the other day that creativity is like meditation, and you do meditate a lot. And meditation, like creativity, creates happiness. And we know that happy people are more successful. So it's all about happiness around us. It's all about making sure that people smile. And I think if we can do that, it'll be a better world, and more importantly, a more successful world. So there was a research done by Harvard Business School, and we know that that's the world's #1 business school, which tried to look at successful people or people from Harvard and from the ghettos or the streets of Boston, and they tracked them for 50 years. And they tried to understand who amongst them became successful, not just in the first generation, but in the third generation also. And surprise, surprise, the answer came that people who were more happy, not better educated, were more successful than people who were just educated. So the chances and the key to success is happiness. And people who were practicing some hobbies, the people who were inclined towards art, music, and the softer side of the world, who had friends who were giving back to the community, were more successful than the guys who were loners and sort of nerds or being on their own. So my last thought would be creativity will also make you more successful, apart from the fact that, you know, it's fun, it keeps you happy. And also the last research, part of the research was that people who were creative end up living longer and happier. So chances of reaching the age of 80 with a healthy life is way more for people who are using the softer side or the right side of the brain than people who are sort of nerds and use the left side of the brain. So it's a win-win. I think we love to do it, and there's no reason why we should not bring creativity into everything that we do. So I think I wanted to show a small video of some work that our students did, which is around how do you cook food. And they created, and if you got a patent on something called a smokeless chula. There's a lot of work done on it. And I'm going to try to find this video. Give me half a second. Where is it? Oh God, I can't find it. Anyway, I will show another video, Vivek, of another very exciting piece of work, which is done by one of our students, which is around water. How do you purify water using a food component? And Aman has won a World Water Fellowship as part of this. It's a path-breaking work. And I think when you see this video, it's going to be, it's going to give many of you goose pimples. So let me share this. So Vivek, Aman has done some amazing work. She's a World Water Fellow. She's been to Geneva as part of a UN assignment as part of this. And it all came because of amazing amount of creativity she brought in. It's a dip bag. It's like a tea bag for curing water. And I would like to give an example over here because I believe that it's not money that makes great ideas. It's creativity that makes great ideas. And let's look at the flying machine or the aeroplane. You know, the 1930s when Wilbur and Albert Wright came up with the aeroplane, the odds were against them. They were not part of any large university. The very, very large universities in the US at that point of time, Harvard, Yale, name them, they were there, all working on the flying machine. But ultimately, who was the first to invent the flying machine? It was the Wright brothers. And they made the aeroplane with spare parts of the bicycle shop that they owned. It was not because they got millions and trillions of dollars. So creativity can lead to great ideas, and that's what's the beauty of the human mind. So I think these are some thoughts which I had. I'd like you to close the discussion, Vivek, and then I'll invite Dr. Chauhan and Brijesh sir and Umesh sir also into the discussion. There are a few questions over here, but last thoughts, Vivek.
Yes, wonderful creativity shown by Aman and her professor and Shoolini University. Great ideas, Atul, and yes, some good questions coming. But before that, just a couple of things. Who can be creative? Which person can be creative? Anybody. That right side of the brain is with everybody. It is underutilized. And some people find it difficult to, let's say, imagine. So I had a group once and I was discussing with them something. So the question was that you imagine yourself in a large garden and surrounded by beautiful flowers. Some people said it's very simple for them, and one or two people could not even imagine that. So it is very difficult for some people to come out of the shell of using their left side of the brain that they have been using so much, being very organized, logical, methodical, and doing something very new or very innovative is totally shocking for them and very difficult to understand. So my last thoughts are that we need to break the mold at times. Look at yourself with a little more sternness, that why have I been doing this for 30 years or 10 years or whatever it is. I need to change something about myself. I need to change something about the way my house looks or my college looks or my methods are. Or there is some experiment which I need to get into, which I've been thinking about. And great thoughts lead to great findings, great inventions. So please get into the creative mindset. Teachers are somebody who can really build a creative country because they can inspire the youth. And I know the education system encourages only marks, but by encouraging creativity, you will be able to create a great generation ahead. I think that is very important. Atul, I think we have some fantastic
You'll be
questions.
surprised, Vivek, how creative Himachalis are. I mean, we are, and that's why, we are one of the richest states in the country. And I think I'm very proud to be an Himachali. So there's a question that Dr. Jitinder Kumar has. He's basically saying, what's the relationship between overthinking and creative thinking? And how can I convert
Yes.
overthinking into creative thinking?
Actually, this is a very good question, and why it's topical is just that last week, when Atul had gone to shoot at a studio, one of the topics I shot a 3-minute video on was overthinking, and overcoming overthinking is something which is it's called. Overthinking is typically used for negative thinking. It is used for worry-related thinking, fearful thinking. So people who are worried, who are stressed, they are indulging in overthinking because the mind is telling them that this is wrong, that is wrong, so and so person is against you, or tomorrow it may be very difficult for you to survive, or the whole world will collapse because corona has come, or Chinese are preparing another virus, whatever it is. You are worried, others are not worried, you are worried because you are overthinking. So the overthinking habit is something which is not leading to anything positive. Creative thinking can come in a moment. It can come in the shower or in a walk. It can come somewhere or the other where you're just, wow, idea comes, and then you develop that idea. So that overthinking is not going to lead to creative thinking at all. It is something where you need to de-stress and freshen up your mind. Atul, I'll just give the story of the pond. A pond of water which is still, it reflects the moon very clearly, and you can see the image of the moon. When that mind is disturbed, when that pond is disturbed, when the water is ruffled, then the distorted image of the moon can be seen. Our minds, when they are restless and busy, they cannot see the picture of life clearly. When you can't see the picture of life clearly, you can't be creative at all. You are only bogged down by restlessness. So calming yourself down will make you more creative. Atul?
Absolutely wonderful thoughts. I think meditation is so critical. I'd also say, Jitinder ji, take small steps, bring in creativity into your day-to-day life. For example, I'm sure you have a particular way of bathing every day. Just change that. If you're using soap, use a different soap. Experiment. If you're using a shower, use a balti and a mug or whatever. Just change that way. If you're using a particular way of wearing clothes, change that. You might want to go to the kitchen and surprise your wife or your mother and cook some beautiful dish for her. There's so much beautiful stuff out there in YouTube. You can learn to do that or anything special. So I just wanted to, I think, bring in our dear panelists also today into the discussion at this juncture. You know, as teachers, we do try to bring in a lot of creativity with our students. So I'm going to ask Brijesh sir for one example of how do you make teaching more creative, sir? Tell us your mantra.
Abhi, in our Seema College, we due to this lockdown, we are not exactly into studies, so we have taken two projects. One is we are preparing one documentary on healthy and long life.
Wow.
So we have taken the concept of blue zones of the world also, but we found many people in our area also. They are living 200. I found one person in Rohol village. He is 107-year-old, still working happily.
Wow.
So that documentary we are preparing, and we will like to collaborate with your university also. You help us
It'll be
in
an honor.
shooting
It'll be an honor, Brijesh sir. But this is so creative. I mean, bringing filming into education. I think that's hats off to you.
Yes, second one is this medicinal plant project. There we have identified about 1,000 bighas in district Shimla, where cultivation of medicinal plant will be promoted. And the particular areas where these medicinal plant will be farmed, we will promote farming of that those medicinal plants. There we are planning some training camps also, like Shoolini University students can come there. We will have lot of medicinal plant at high altitude, and practical knowledge students will get there. And second one is we have plant some trekking camps also from those medicinal plants to up hills. And third one is we have promoted domestication of animals there, like we will have special type of cows, dog, horses, sheep also there. So these type of things we are planning, and whenever this lockdown will be open, those centers will start functioning. We have identified at least 20-30 good places where we will have गाने भी गाएंगे ना उधर, फिर गुनगुना रहे
क्या
हैं
बात है
कौवे.
सर.
Practically we will do that.
बिल्कुल सर, बिल्कुल करेंगे. We look forward to that. और खाना आप बनाना बहुत बढ़िया सा, मैंने सुना है कि आपका बहुत बढ़िया खाना होता है. So we'll come to experience that. Of course, तब तक hopefully आपके सेफ भी हो जाएंगे सर.
हाँ, जब मैं ओकिनावा गया था अभी, I went to that Ogimi also, which is a place where the particular village where people live 200 years. तो उनका जो खाना था ना उधर, कोदा, चलाई, चाबरू and whatever, we also have that kind of food in our upper Shimla. तो उसको हम अभी दोबारा से शुरू कर रहे हैं. अदरवाइज आर्टिफिशियल फूड खाने से लोगों का लाइफ स्पेन इन आवर कंट्री इज बिलो 70 years नाउ. तो हम देख उसको अच्छी तरह से अभी आजकल वी गॉट लॉट ऑफ टाइम ड्यू टू दिस कोरोना, and we are thinking on different lines, और उसको हम काम करेंगे अभी with your university.
So, we'd love to do that, Brijesh sir. Thank you so much. Ek Satpal ji is asking a question. Vivek, can creativity be trained?
Yeah, I think creativity can be, but there are people with the attitude of creativity and those who don't have an attitude of creativity. I think first you need to let go of the attitude of being a status quoist. That means you are happy with the routine. Then you won't have the intention to be creative. If you are willing to be trained to be creative, then definitely you can be trained, or somebody can be trained. And that is something which I feel, because inspirational examples of creativity, Dr. Brijesh just mentioned 2 or 3 of them. He went to the village where people live for 100 years to see what kind of food they have. If that can be implemented in other places, at least by 5-10 years, the lifespan may increase. I don't know, but maybe. At least it's a creative thought. So creativity can be trained or taught only if the person is willing to learn.
So we call it the ability to unlearn also, Vivek. So I think in today's world, knowledge is changing very dramatically. What we learn today and what's going to be knowledge 20 years later is going to be dramatically different. In fact, I was speaking to a biologist, and I think I'm going to bring in Dr. Nartha at this moment. You know, biologists, for example, used to have a concept of mitochondria and the concept of RNA and DNA. And what we learned 30 years back, it's actually changed. It's changed quite dramatically. So we should also learn the ability to unlearn is the point, I think, and that's what you're also saying. But I would tell you that, Satpalji, that I think creativity can be learned. You should have to practice. Now, everyone cannot sing, for example. I can't sing. You heard me singing. It was very bad. Probably
Not
I
too
can't.
bad.
Well, come on, Vivek. I know how good or bad I am. But I am very good at visual. My visuals are so strong. I can, I can't draw anything, but I remember visuals and I think visually. So we all have some strength because it's coming from our genes, and it's coming through our genes because we were hunters as humans, and we had to protect each one of us. So some people are good at singing because they had to send signals to other people. Some people are good at visuals because they had to come back and give the message. Some people are good at listening because they had to listen कि कोई सांप तो नहीं आ रहा है, कोई danger तो नहीं आ रहा है. So all of us have some special skill. So I would also say become aware of what's good for you. Self-awareness is very important, and then practice that. All of us have a very strong right brain. But I'd like to bring in Umesh sir at this point. You look like a very creative person to me, sir. I mean, somehow the image I have about you when I look at you, you sound. आप गाना जरूर गाते हो. बताओ अपने बारे में सर. आप सीक्रेट खोल ही दो आप.
नहीं, मैं गाना तो नहीं गाता हूँ, लेकिन I'm a good audience and listener. I appreciate creative people, and I try to inculcate those things into my life. And what I find in my teaching that I don't want to teach my student the syllabus only. I request them to come out of book, learn something, and do something. Why can't a biologist do the business? So I emphasize on bio business sort of things like mushroom cultivation, post harvest technology, because a lot of food, 30 to 40% food I can know about that. This is spoiled in the world. So that sort of thing can be used, reused, and that can be avoided. Wastage can be avoided by intervention of science. For example, apple. We are a state where apple is grown, and large this volume amount of water, this apple, it goes waste. It is sometime it rots at the site, so people don't get the prices, and government has to pay for that. So why not we come out with small industries at village and panchayat level, so that
Amazing.
apple vinegar, cider, jams, and that sort of things can be done. And mushroom cultivation, medicinal plant, tea, whole variety of teas is there. So in the project I was discussing about DBT, I want the biology student to learn the skills which can be not only help to make their career, but also can help to provide this business opportunity and employment to the many more associated with it. And this you avoid wastage of the apple and other foods as well. There is one example when I was going to this presentation of the DVT task force. I bought a apple chips. It was costing around 70 rupees. When I opened it, I found that this is hardly one apple, one piece of apple which has been sliced and then value added to it, and it is selling 70 rupees. Our lowest quality apple, for example, medium, there will be 200, yeah, medium, small, extra small grade apple, small grade apple. It will in one box there will be 200 to 300 apples, and it will at peak season it fetches only 600 to 700 per box. So imagine if one apple value added, it can fetch 70 rupees. So you can multiply that by 300. So this sort of thing we can do.
No,
We
absolutely,
can
Dr.
add
Nata. I
in our
think what you
education.
say, absolutely. I think bringing uh, creativity into business and teaching, I think that's a hats off idea. So impressed by your thinking. Would love to collaborate with you on this one. It's my passion also. I think bringing and adding value add to our farmers is so critical. 70% of fresh fruits and vegetable is lost, Vivek, because it rots across India. And that's a shame on our country where people don't have enough food to eat. So there are 3-4 more questions. I think we've got less time. I'll request Vivek to hurry it up.
I like the questions actually, Atul. Very nice questions. One is, can we define hobby as creativity? Sumitra ji, I think, is asking. So I think hobby is one part of creativity. You can also be creative in sports. You can be creative in your work. You can be creative in your life. But a very interesting question by Mimansa ma'am, I think it is creativity compromised by the restrictions of society? For instance, the creativity of women is compromised by taboos and restrictions imposed on them. You see, you're right. I mean, if women are not even having basic freedom in certain sections of our country even today, you remember this film which came, I don't know whether you saw it or I was not going to watch it because the name was so reprehensible, Sand Ki Aankh, right? Sand Ki Aankh literally means bullseye. When you look at bullseye, it's a very fashionable word. They made it Sand Ki Aankh. That itself is creative. And then these two ladies it's a true story, who could not even get out of parda. They used to wear ghungats. They became shooting champions at the age of 65 and 70 in a UP district, I think Meerut. And what a film they made. So restrictions actually do stifle creativity. And men folk in that time or in that society don't allow the women to come out. Everybody resisted their creativity. I have seen a very creative experiment. I don't know whether you all agree with me or know of it. Bhira, I don't know whether you know Bhira. I don't know the person. I have sampled those achars, chutneys and jams which are available.
Vivek, Rajgarh में है, बिल्कुल पास में हमारे
पास में आपके और a woman, I believe it's a women's cooperative. Yes. Whoever has started that, I believe, is also a lady. The kind of creativity exhibited and the quality of that product is amazing. So I think women obviously will become more creative when the taboos and restrictions are lifted. But I know that women are creative even when they are in the confines of their home, their art, even what Himachal ladies I know, the kind of knitting and crochet and other things they've been doing forever. So, but they would be more creative without taboos, definitely. Atul, you want to take the next one? It is about the present system of education. Not much importance is given to a culture of creativity. Pramod ji is asking. The present system
Vivek.
of education. Yeah.
Vivek, please go ahead.
Okay, so the present system of education does not encourage a culture of creativity. I agree with you. Schools, colleges, and universities have to follow the syllabus which is given. Not much of thinking and innovation and experimentation is allowed. So I think we need to encourage it within our own institutions, because changing it from Delhi or Shimla or Himachal board or CBSE will be very difficult. I have been on these boards and I know how difficult it is. So whatever you can do in class activities, group activities, debates, games, quizzes, incorporate them in your own class and school and college and university. That will be better.
Yeah, I'd say that I think in colleges and universities, we have more flexibility, Vivek, than schools. So we challenge the syllabus every day. And I think the type of stuff Brijesh ji spoke about, documentary, making a documentary. We do a lot of work with social organizations that Shoolini, our students are working with. Yuvraj Singh on his UV can as an example. They're working with, there's a nearby old age home. They're working with them to enhance the experience with old people. So lots of stuff can be done outside the syllabus, Vivek. So definitely encourage you to practice that, Pramod. But I'd like to bring in Dr. Chauhan at this juncture. Aapka kya creative, I'm sure you're also very creative in some form or the other, Dr. Chauhan. So what is your creative release? Is it singing, or are you good at dancing, or art? Do you paint? आप क्या करते हैं सर?
नहीं, बेसिकली मैं तो अपने वक्त में सिंसियरिटी शो करता हूँ, not much with the dancing and singing. अपने स्टाफ को engage करके रखता हूँ whenever we have some work to do. Always disciplined and also expect from my staff. So basically, as far as teaching is concerned, we don't have such flexibility, especially in involving in the creativity. The thing is, sometimes we also involve students by giving them seminars or by asking them to deliver some lectures. So that is the only part. Otherwise, we have to follow, as you said, the standard completing the syllabus, whatever university prescribes.
So the fact that we're all here and we are on an amazing platform talking to each other, which you couldn't have thought about, even 2 months back, Vivek, that itself is creative, right? So
Absolutely.
I think sharing ideas, that itself is so creative. I think we're coming to an end. One or two more questions. I think Sandhira is asking, link between imagination and creativity. We'll keep that as the last question, Vivek. Then I would like all of you to sort of close also. So last question, Vivek. Link between imagination and creativity.
Very interesting question, Sandhira ma'am. And I'm corrected by Mimansa's mother, who is Poonam ma'am, actually, who asked that question earlier. Mimansa is her daughter. Okay, Sandhira ma'am, basically imagination is something which gives you the dream or the goal that you seek to achieve. And I think creativity is the process by which you seek to achieve that. So if you can imagine something, it is said that wherever mankind's imagination goes today, mankind will also go there one day. So creativity is the process of thinking, which leads you to complete your goal of imagination. That's my feeling. Atul?
So I'll take one last question of Dr. Jitendra Kumar. He's saying, what educational techniques are proven to bring in more creativity among students? I think exactly the type of work that Dr. Brajesh spoke about, which is making the students do something. So learning by doing is very important. Jitendra ji, I'll give you a small example from our side. I was teaching GDP. I don't know whether you're an economist or not, gross domestic product, the concept. So I could have taught it from a textbook. We created a project where we sent them to a nearby town called Ojghat. We told the students, find the GDP of, come back and tell us the GDP of Ojghat, Vivek. So students came back and told us they calculated the GDP of Ojghat. And then we sent them back and said, now you go and recommend to us, how do you double the GDP of Ojghat? So I think making the students learn by doing, that sort of enhances creativity. If it's engineering, it's about creating models and stuff like that. You can bring in projects in any field. Of course, if you're a botanist, just being in the mountains and understanding plants and the forest itself is so valuable. So you can, biotechnology में तो बहुत काम हो सकता है. Apple jam बनाने में इतना सब कुछ है सर, जो आपने example दिया. So these are the type of things we can do, Jitendra ji. So we come to an end. I think I so wish we had more time. We've already 3 to 5 minutes above our time, Vivek. I'd like to thank everyone. But before we close, as I always do, I'm going to request each one of you to just summarize your thoughts with one sentence. Now, you all have to be very creative. You're not allowed more than one sentence. So, Vivek, I'm going to ask you to also do that. But before that, I'm sure you must be writing a poem. So, 3 पंक्ति आपने किसी poem की सुना दो आप, और फिर अपना एक sentence.
I don't really write poems, but I did write that the skies are azure and we are more sure of society going forward. So that was 3 lines that I wrote. But let me say that please be connected and please watch my YouTube videos. I have lots of them. Every topic cannot be covered in a small webinar. So my last message is stay positive, stay creative, and stay connected.
Rajesh sir, over to you. One sentence.
This was very useful webinar, and in coming time we would like to collaborate with your university, and we will do big things in coming time.
Thank you. I'll take your number from Gaurav Bali. Thank you so much, Vijay sir. Chauhan sir, aapka ek last sentence. I think we lost him. No, he's there.
So creativity for me is just sowing a good seed and bearing its fruit for future.
Fantastic. Umesh sir, your last sentence.
Sir, I must tell you that Mr. P.P. Chauhan is my teacher. So we are both student teachers. I'm fortunate to share this panel with him. So I will say in the words of Alvin Toffler that unlearn and relearn is the mantra that we should work on, especially the COVID in the COVID crisis, the situation that has emerged. So only mantra is learn, unlearn, and relearn.
Wow. So well said, Nataji. I'm getting goose pimples listening to you. Seriously, I think so well said. Hats off. Vivek, I teased you by asking you a few lines of a poem. So I thought I should recite 4 lines that I once wrote when I was preparing for IIT. I wanted to inspire myself, so I wrote 4 lines. I still remember those. The lines go as is. I can imagine for you a dream of a bubble of soap. I can imagine for you a dream of a bubble of soap that encloses success and bursts forth to yield ecstasy that spells into all life. But to break it, you have to aim your arrow with lots of hard work. So those were a few lines that I wrote. I'm not a great poet, but
Well done.
once in a while I would do that to inspire myself. Thank you, everyone, very much. Be safe, be happy. There's a movie called Lion King. There's a beautiful song called Hakuna Matata, which said, don't worry, be happy. I think Corona will go. We all know that. Dr. Umesh knows that better than us. He's the biotechnologist amongst us. So let's be happy and let's make sure that we spread happiness amongst our teachers and students. Thank you very, very much, and truly, truly appreciate all of you being here. And thank you. I thank all the panelists and Vivek, Dr. Chauhan, Dr. Nartha, and Dr. Brijesh for being with us. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.